maintain and repair, computer system, and networks. Disabling startup items. Computers tend to slow over time, due to temporary or unneeded files that are accumulated over time. Especially if you constantly installing new programs that occupy computer resources. This module discusses how to disable startup items and clean unnecessary files in your computer, which could give a boost to computer performance as well as enhance the overall performance of the unit by conducting basic computer troubleshooting. One of the best ways to unburden your computer and quickly free up resources is to disable items that automatically launch when Windows boots. These startup items not only suck up system resources like little vampires, but they also often cause your computer to boot longer. According to Microsoft, the impact is based on how much CPU and disk usage occurs at startup. High impact, apps that use more than 1 second of CPU time or more than 3 megabytes of disk I/O at startup. Medium impact, apps that use 300 milliseconds, 1000 milliseconds of CPU time or 300 KB, 3 megabytes of disk I/O. Low impact, apps that use less than 300 milliseconds of CPU time and less than 300 KB of disk I/O. 1 second might not seem like a lot, but keep in mind, the above screenshot depicts a system that doesn't have a ton of stuff installed. Imagine a system with many more things in the startup routine. If you have a dozen high-impact startup items in addition to the other medium and low-impact items, and they're all requiring CPU time and disk I/O, startup time increases proportionately. Microsoft breaks down startup apps and guides how to deal with several categories of startup apps, including utilities that sync your PC or for backup and recovery, updaters, notifies, and more. It's safe to say that in any event, you can disable most, if not all startup items, and it will not adversely affect your system. That said, as we mentioned earlier, if you do disable everything, you may lose functionality that you otherwise wanted. In the above case, if we disabled Dropbox, it would no longer start automatically and sync changes. We'd instead have to manually start it, so we might as well leave it enabled. Startup program. What does startup program mean? A startup program is a program or application that runs automatically after the system has booted up. Startup programs are usually services that run in the background. Services in Windows are analogous to the daemons in Unix and Unix-like operating systems. Startup programs are also known as startup items or startup applications. A startup program is usually installed to monitor a device such as a printer or, in the case of software, to check for updates. Some of these programs are part of the operating system and most run in the background. In Windows, some of these can be seen as an icon in the taskbar. In Windows versions before Windows 8, the list of startup programs could be found in the Startup tab of the System Configuration dialog box, which can be activated by typing msconfig in the Run dialog box of the Start menu. In Windows 8, the list is found in the Startup tab of Task Manager. System Configuration now only contains a link to the latter. Here, users may opt to disable third-party startup programs that they believe are not necessary, as these consume resources. Administrator rights may be required to do so.